everyone. Welcome to those who haven't been here before. Welcome back to those who have watched before. Thanks for coming again. My name is Aaliyah Langley, and I want to come on here and quickly discuss my favorite films of 2025. I've announced these a while ago, but I want to actually come in video form and talk about them as we are getting into 2026 here. But I finally have a moment to try to just talk about it a little bit because there's been some really great projects this 2025. So let's jump right in. I didn't rank them similar to how I did last year. I just have them. I have them in alphabetical order. I do have a favorite overall of the year that I've kind of held firm on since I've seen it, but I'm gonna just talk about them and the kind of the way I presented them as well in terms of alphabetical order. So very first up is a film called Blue Moon, directed by Richard Linklater, and this film was all about basically the night that Oklahoma opens, and like Lorenz Hart used to have this great collaboration with Richard Rodgers. This is Oklahoma is Richard Rodgers' first collaboration with Hammerstein. And I remember coming into the film, I didn't fully know like what the tagline was, and I was obviously in Oklahoma, I've heard of it, whatever, all those kind of things. Never seen it, but I remember they said like Rodgers and they said Hammerstein at some point, and I was like, wait, Rodgers and Hammerstein, like, oh, like, wow. And then Ethan Hawke was in this movie, and he's just absolutely incredible. Andrew Scott is playing Richard Rodgers, and he's great. Bobby Cannavale is this great bartender who's there all night. It's like really set. It almost feels like a play. It's like completely set pretty much in this bar. Like we start with we kind of have like a narrator talking about Lorenz Hart because I just think too as well about these movies. I'm going to be talking about them in depth. So if there's any spoilers or anything like that, even though this is a true story, I mean whatever, I'm going to be talking about it fully. The movie starts basically with like our narrator talking about Lorenz Hart being found like dead on the side of the road, basically like a couple months after Oklahoma premiered and things like that. And then he's at Oklahoma, he's watching, and he leaves right before the end. And then basically is like this celebration in this bar, and basically the whole movie is basically in this bar, really in like a couple rooms in the bar as well. And it's just like a brilliant film. And right away I really enjoyed it. And right away, something about me, I mean, I'll see movies multiple times, but when I'm like actively trying to figure out like pretty much very soon after, okay, when am I going to come again, that's when I know as well that's a movie that's like gonna be around for me, and I'm gonna really enjoy it. And I went like maybe a week later to see it again, and it just was exceptional. And Ethan Hawke is incredible in this film. Like, and I mentioned Andrew Scott's great in this. I really haven't seen a Linklater film I don't think I have enjoyed, and this was another really great one. All right, next up we have Bugonia, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, that weird man. And this film is starring Emma Stone. No surprise there. They're quite the collaborators. We also have I'm forgetting his name, Jesse Plemons in this film, who is this incredible. It's this dark comedy film, and it really is just one that it's one of those ones that you want to watch again because like the second watch, it's like you know things now, and it's like how am I going to see what I didn't see in the first watch? Now I know what I know. This film is like just as the past few Yorgos Lanthimos films have been. Is really kind of out there, but I really enjoyed it. It's kind of like the premise of it is Jesse Plemons is a conspiracy theorist. Him and his cousin basically are working on this plot to kidnap this CEO who we meet, who Emma Stone is playing, and we like following them. They're talking, they're getting prepped, they're doing push-ups, they're doing all these things to like get their minds and get their bodies prepped to like go do this. Then we're like see Emma Stone's character like getting ready for the day, doing her little boxing lesson, singing Chapel Roan in the car, yada yada. Then all of a sudden these guys come and take her, and they shave her head, things like that. Say like they can't have her, she can't speak. That's how she's gonna connect to the alien life force. You can't like she can't have her hair, and they like bring her downstairs. They have her smother all this like antihistamine, I think, lotion all over herself, whatever. Like so she's like completely like white, and like clearly in this cream. And Emma Stone's character is like, okay, like this. You have a mental illness, like you need to get some help. I need you to get out of here. Can we get serious, yada yada? And Jesse Plemons is like, that's what I know. This is what you're gonna say, yada yada. So it's basically like you're made to believe that Jesse Plemons is this really crazy conspiracy theorist, and he's really like off his rocker. And Emma Stone is this poor innocent CEO person, but actually, it turns out that Jesse Plemons was right the whole time, and we don't really figure that out for sure until like the final 10 minutes of the movie, maybe even fewer than that, maybe even less than that rather. And if you've seen it, it's hard to like really describe. You really have to go through it to see all these kind of the lead up to it. But when you see it, it really is like, it's like, oh, and like maybe there's like a little hint you might have thought of before potentially, but it's quite like up to the end. It's like, oh, his drawing of the spaceship he thought was right, and it's like basically the reason we find out is because Emma Stone, like, after she like gets away from these people, and both the people who kidnapped her end up dying, she like basically teleports back up to space and like her people, and she's like one of the leaders of this whatever the kind of people are, the Andromedons, whatever. It's really nuts. Will Tracy wrote the script. This is the first one in a while. Yorgos Lanthimos have said that he hasn't like developed the script from the very beginning, like it was already developed, and he like added some touches to it to make it more his style, and for the directing he was going to be doing. But it's a really crazy movie. But it's a really like I really enjoyed it, and again, it's one of those you want to see again because you're like, I need to know. I want to see how I'm reacting to it, like now knowing what I would know basically. And Emma Stone's incredible in it. She just continues to be exceptional. She's like one of my favorite actors, and has been for quite a while. And she's just always doing something that I really like. Next up here, this film is Companion. This is written and directed by Drew Hancock. This is the film. This is like a science fiction thriller film, is what I'm reading. The tagline is what it is. This is of all the films, if I were to rank anything, this is the one I gave the lowest rating of all 20 I have. I even have other films that I didn't make this list that I gave higher ratings. Not that's necessarily like my thought on it, like in terms of like where my ratings were, but this film kept kind of coming up, and enough to me to be like, okay, I want to put it in my favorites of the year. And I thought about briefly putting Weapons in there instead, but Weapons was too scary for me to like put it as like my favorites, even though I gave like the Weapons like a higher rating than this. The Companion is basically a film. We know from the trailers, we know from the tagline, this woman here, Sophie Thatcher, is a robot. We know that from even the poster. You see like her eyes are like clearly like robot eyes, whatever like that, or obviously looks a little bit dark, maybe a little bit, that little maybe hint of scariness, whatever you would have. Basically, she's a robot, and in this film, she like starts out as not knowing, and then she finds out, and it's like a thriller film because her boyfriend, who's played by Jack Quaid, basically sets her up for this murder to try to make this money, whatever. And basically, she like learns that she is a robot, figures out how to like break into her OS and like heighten up her like defense skills, whatever, and basically like takes revenge on these people who like wronged her. And it's quite good. I actually am gonna try to maybe watch it again soon here because I was thinking about it again. I just watched the live action short winner from the Oscars this past year. I'm Not a Robot, and that's a great Dutch short film, like 20 minutes. I would recommend watching it. It's on YouTube. And I was thinking about this movie again, Companion. I was thinking about it before actually, even because it has similar kind of things. Obviously, this has like some more twist and things like that, but the whole like being a person, what you believe is a person, and going around yada yada, and then all of a sudden being like, oh, I'm a robot. And then also all the discussions in this film and that film, they did a little bit, really they dug into it here in terms of like, what does that mean? Like, are we just being used, especially like by like these men using us in these wrong ways, and not even just the men, but like kind of like, is that like actually right to do? And like, am I just like a sex bot to you? Yada yada, all those kind of things. Clearly, he was willing to like send her up the river to like set her up for this plot. Like all those kind of discussions were really like poignant in there, and I really that's one of the things that kept having this film come up in my mind, over the course of the year. Of all the films that I have on this list, this is the one I saw the earliest. I think I saw it like around this time last year in early January in 2025. And yeah, it's a really great movie, and if you haven't seen it, I really would recommend watching it. It's really good. All right, next up I have Downton Abbey, the grand finale. This is the third Downton Abbey film. And Downton Abbey, I got on the Downton Abbey train late. I watched the whole series, like, time is a construct. I have no idea how long ago, but it was like a couple years ago. Like it was like COVID or just after COVID. Like I kind of watched all the seasons, which I think is like maybe 6. And the way I'm even should back up because the way I started watching the series, the first year I moved to where I live now, to the city I live in now. My first year of AMC A-List. The first Downton Abbey movie was coming out in 2019, and I went to the cinema. And I hadn't seen Downton Abbey at all, but I was like, oh, this is a movie. It looks good from the trailers. Whatever. Let me just go. I don't really, know any of these people, but let me go. I remember I went. A bunch of people were like dressed up and like, their Downton Abbey gear, whatever. And it was like a packed theater I went to, and it was. I really enjoyed the movie. But I knew watching that film, I was like, I would have such a better experience. I know because if I would have, all these fans obviously they had watched the series, and this was like that was the first movie them like finally back after a couple years away. And after that, I got like interested in watching the TV show, and it was maybe like the next year, getting COVID or something like that, maybe 2020, that I started watching the series, and I really enjoyed the series. I went back and watched that first movie. By the time the second movie had come out, I had seen the whole show, which I think the second movie came out 2022 maybe. So I watched that, Downton Abbey: A New Era, and then this one was just so great. It was just like I got my family on Downton Abbey as well after watching it myself, and it was just so great. It was just like a really great, like, the people you've come to know, you really enjoyed. It's kind of like wrapping up their stories and quite funny at moments as you respect with Downton Abbey and all types of things. It's just a really, really great movie. I really, really enjoyed the movie experience and just like seeing these people again, like the whole thing. I think it's just incredible, and yeah, it was really, really great film for me, great experience. Next up here, we have F1, the movie. This is F1. I have never really seen anything F1. Actually, right after I watched this film, like, I think it was like that, I watched this film like around my birthday, which is at the very end of June. I think like the next week, they were having, I think the British Grand Prix was happening. I remember I like watched the end of it, and there was some drama, and I was like, oh, look, I'm going to get into F1 now. But I haven't watched it anything since. But I do think that F1, this movie, is going to get more people interested in F1 if it hasn't already. I just, it's just one of those like massive scale, like, see it in IMAX, really enjoy it, you know, get your popcorn and just like really enjoy this film. And it's, you know, Joseph Kosinski, who's like done a lot of great things previously, and, you know, producer Jerry Bruckheimer, who's also done a lot of great things, Top Gun, things like that. Those, like, again, thinking about those big massive scale movies that are really just like awesome. This is starring Brad Pitt, Lou Simonton's in briefly, but Damson Idris is in here. We have Kerry Condon, Tobias Menzies, Javier Bardem. Lots of great people, lots of great things going on. It's just a really enjoyable movie. I remember I saw it. This was for my birthday, then I think I actually went as well on my birthday. And yeah, it's one of those films one of those really great movie experiences that I enjoy. One of those ones that I wanted to see again as well. Which a lot of these films on this list I've seen multiple times, which is, as I mentioned, always kind of a good indicator for me, at least, to know, like, okay, this is one I'm quite enjoying. And yeah, it was a really great one. Yeah, go give it a watch. All right, next up here is the Fantastic Four: First Steps. Now, I'm a Marvel girl. I'm not like a Marvel, like, I haven't read the comics, I haven't done all these things, but I am a Marvel movie watcher, especially if you're in the MCU. They've been MCU now, if you watch anything Marvel, they've been connecting more things, like, they connected the X-Men, so I remember I went back and had to watch all the X-Men, because I'd always seen, like, Wolverine and, like, maybe one other thing, so I watched all those X-Men movies. I need to see Dark Phoenix still. I was thinking about, I need to hurry up. Anyways, let me focus on Fantastic Four. So anyways, I'm a Marvel person. I'm always into the movies, things like that, the TV shows. I gotta catch up on a couple of them. But the old Fantastic Fours that I've seen, I really enjoyed those, or enjoyed them enough. But I was really excited for this one. And also, I didn't even realize until after that the director of this film was also the director of WandaVision, because right away I just really liked this film, and there were some of those connections from Vanessa Kirby's character with Sue Storm that I kept thinking about, of like Wanda Maximoff and WandaVision, which WandaVision is like the best Marvel TV show, maybe one of the best things Marvel's ever created, I feel like. So I was like, I saw some of those through lines, and this film was just awesome. It was like, I knew obviously Avengers is coming out at the end of this year, and like we also had Thunderbolts that came out before this, and it was like, okay, like this is something that we're going to really want to see. We're going to see what's happening, meet these characters, we're going to see them later, and I think they just really did a great job with the script, everything like that, and also just everything that they had in this film. I just really, really enjoyed, and we're following this Fantastic Four on this, I even forget what Earth they're even on. I can't, Earth 828. If people, I don't read the comics, so I don't really, the Earth numbers and things, I can't follow it that much. Like, I need like a graph, because it's too complicated. But basically, like, there's like this bad guy coming to try to like eat the Earth. The Fantastic Four has to try to step in and save the day, and lo and behold, they do. And also, it turns out Reed Richards and Sue Storm, who Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby play, they have a son who is like powerful, but like they don't know it at first, but like the guy wants them. It's like, oh, he's gonna be my successor, and yada yada. So there's all these kind of family things going on. That's why I was thinking again about WandaVision, some of the stuff that I could tell that some of those connections, whatnot. Really great film, really great, again, Marvel out there again, and we look forward to this build up to the Avengers. One of these stepping stones that's going to get us to the Avengers in December. Really, really great. All right, next up here is Friendship, which is another dark comedy film, and this was just so funny. This is written and directed by Andrew DeYoung, and it stars Tim Robinson, Kate Mara, Paul Rudd. And this film, I remember I went into it, I didn't really know like what the heck it was going to be about. It's an A24 film, and I literally left like thinking like, when am I seeing this again? Trying to tell people in my life like, let's go see this. Like, you need to see this. It's just like so funny and so good and so awkward. basically Tim Robinson, who is this man who's married to Kate Mara, and he's living down the road, and Paul Rudd basically moves in, and actually, yeah, Kate Mara's his wife. Anyways, Paul Rudd basically moves in down up the road, and he's like this awkward guy who's like this like normal everyday kind of guy, and he's like, oh, this is this cool guy, he plays guitar, he has this cool car, I want to be his friendship. And he starts doing all these weird things to try to like be friends with him, and Paul Rudd eventually is like, all right, dude, like enough, see you around. And he's like still doing all these weird things, like sneaking into his house, trying to like, you know, figure out yada yada. He's having friends over, he's like, why aren't I over? It's like so weird and so funny and awkward, but it's so good. And I really enjoyed it. I just was like cackling the whole time, like awkward cackling and things like that. And I thought the performances were good. I thought everything about the film was really excellent. It's a really great film. I was one of those ones that, as well, like I mentioned, I wanted to keep recommending to people and say like, go see this film because it's like so funny, and I think you're gonna really enjoy it. And people who I've seen from my recommendations have. So yeah. All right, we're gonna get a little bit heavy here now. Next up here, I have Hamnet. Directed and co-written by Chloe Zhao, and also co-written by the novel writer Maggie O'Farrell. This film, excellent. It's basically, I saw Jessie Buckley, I mentioned this before because I've made a couple videos on Hamnet. Jessie Buckley say something like, this film is about like, you know, grief and love and loss, and about like how like art can hold some of the things that's too hard to hold for ourselves. Essentially, this book started with Maggie O'Farrell. We know that Shakespeare, this is a film about Paul Mescal's playing Shakespeare, and Jessie Buckley is playing, her name in real life was Anne Hathaway, but in the book and stuff she was written as Agnes, or how they said it back then, but some people in America would say Agnes. We knew that they had a kid named Hamnet, and as we know, Shakespeare wrote one of his best plays, Hamlet. So the idea kind of started from there in terms of like potentially like, and we know that the son died as well quite young. You know, maybe like, was Hamlet created somewhere in terms of like dealing with this grief potentially? And the film basically exploring that. It's like the two of them meeting, kind of starting a family, having children, and then Hamnet dying, and basically the marriage kind of like struggling to hold on still, and Shakespeare starting to basically like be Shakespeare, and he's like, you know, he's going down to London, he's doing all these things, and they put on Hamlet, and essentially it's Jessie Buckley's character Agnes comes to the Old Globe and is like still confused about like what's going on. She's like, why are they using my son's name, and like what's going on? And she's coming there and she's like finally seeing Shakespeare in terms of like the way he was feeling. She wasn't fully understanding, like maybe like he wasn't grieving the way she was, so maybe he was able to grieve through this picture, but then also being at the play and seeing it, and basically like seeing her son in the main character and kind of connecting to him that way. And for me, like, I kept hearing people saying that this film, like, they were sobbing, crying, and whatever. And I'm a crier. I mean, if you've been around some of my videos, things like that, I'll cry at a movie, absolutely. But I just was like, you know, let's just see, like, this doesn't mean automatically I'm going to cry. So I go, and I'm watching, and I'm not a huge Shakespeare person anyway, so it's not that it was, like, you know, Shakespeare heavy in terms of, like, really the dialogue and things like that. We didn't really see a bunch of even Shakespeare at all. Like, they said Shakespeare's name once, even. Like at the end of the movie. Like I remember I went with, I'd seen it already, but I remember I took my mother to see when I was around the holiday time, and then I told her it was about Shakespeare, he was in it and things like that, and then when they said the name, she was like, oh, that was Shakespeare? I said, yeah, Mom, like, what's going on? Anyway, so like it's Jessie Buckley is like the character. Paul Mescal's campaigning for Best Supporting Actor and things like that. Like, it's Jessie Buckley, who's just incredible. She's gonna be winning the Oscar, by the way. And it's let me focus. So I was like, yeah, maybe I'll cry, whatever. When the son died, Hamnet died, Jessie Buckley has this very visceral, like scream, yell, whatever. I remember when that, again, watching it with my mother, I remember my mother, like, reacting as well and being there and, like, trying to, like, you know, I'm not a mother, so, like, maybe her understanding, like, in a different way or whatnot. Even I can just empathize. And then at the end of the film, basically, like the really the final third of this film is just like is just remarkable. And the final third is really like Hamlet being played on stage, and they like recreate the Old Globe, and Jessie Buckley's there, and also her brother is there, and they're trying to find William and whatever. They find him on stage. They like come in the middle of the show. Everyone's around here, and again, she's like starting to connect to, one, see her husband in a way that she had maybe seen like his grief and loss before. because again they had it different. But then also herself was standing there seeing like this kid playing, or a young man, whatever, playing Hamlet, who ends up actually being the older brother of the actors, or brothers. The younger brother is Hamnet in the film. Jacoby Jupe, who's excellent in this film, and Noah Jupe, people would know from like A Quiet Place, things like that. The It movies, whatever, is Hamlet in the film. So that was like a crazy connection as well. So she's watching it happen on stage, and this moment happens. He dies, and for me, I was fine. Everything was going on, especially in that time. It was getting Shakespeare heavy in terms of the words and stuff like that. I was fine. And then there's a moment, you might have seen if you've seen the film, where she reaches her hand out to touch the man playing Hamlet, and he's like unsure what to do. He's like professing something, and puts his hand out and like takes her hand, basically. And then the whole audience starts to reach forward as well. And in that moment, right away, I literally started just like, and then like the tears started just like coming down my face. And they really didn't stop from then on, because as well we were seeing little flashes of Hamnet and like him walking through the door and things like that. And then like I can't even keep talking about it actually right now, because, and I have this, while I'm sitting here, I got this thing from the cinema. It's like this this is like the moment where they're in the Globe, and this is like, I think this is Paul in the Globe as they're like prepping this whole little like Hamnet thing that they were handing out. Anyways, I can't even really talk about it a bunch, because it still actually makes me quite emotional, because when I just picture it, it's so breathtaking. And that, from that moment of like that hand reaching out, I was crying, and I did not stop crying until I got home, and I was sitting here about to record, and then I found out that the two boys were brothers, and I started tearing up again. If you watch my 1 minute movie review, you probably will see like some, if I had glasses or not, depending if you see some tears in my eyes, because I really was just so moved by it, so incredibly moved. And Chloe Zhao was just like incredible. It's just an incredible film, and again, Jessica Biel's gonna be winning Best Actress. Prepare for that. We have a lot of movies to talk about, so let me just move off of that. But that movie, if you have not seen that movie yet, you need to hurry up and go see that while it's in cinemas. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, and I cannot wait to read the novel as well. I'm waiting to get the novel. Hopefully I will get it soon. I know I'm gonna love that book as well. This next one is It Was Just an Accident. This is our Palme d'Or winning film from Iran. This film was great. I remember I wanted to see it. Obviously, I knew it won the Palme, but I hadn't I think I saw the trailer maybe once. I don't even know if I even seen the trailer, but I knew it won the Palme. I knew I wanted to see it. It was like just depending on when it was going to be coming out. I was leaving to go on a quick trip there, it was like I forget what day it was. I was leaving to go on a quick trip like the next day. I just happened to be perusing on AMC. I'm an AMC A-lister, so I usually look there a lot. And I saw it was playing in a theater like that night, and I said, so it was literally like I picked up my stuff basically and like got the ticket and like left the house in like 15-20 minutes to go to the cinema, because it was gonna be happening. The movie was happening in like an hour or something like that, or whatever it was. And so I remember I went into the film, and I basically was like, I don't really know much about I don't know like what the tagline is. I don't really know much about what this film is about. I know it's won the Palme. I know it's like, this great well-lauded film, things like that. Let's just go in and let's just go see it. And it was like an early showing type thing, or one of the first showings, so packed theater, things like that. And this film is just like boom, it will knock you. Basically, it's kind of like, it's an Iranian film, and it's basically, we're following this gang of previous maybe revolutionaries, and who basically had been tortured by a member of the Iranian military, things like that. The film basically begins with this man driving with his family. His car breaks down. He walks into this random auto shop, and then he has quite a distinct, he clearly has lost a limb, on one of his legs, or part of his leg. So there's you can hear him squeak kind of. And then we don't really know, again, I don't really know what was going on, because I'd had to know, but this guy basically hears this squeak when the auto shop worker, she was upstairs, and he's looking, and he's looking down, and all of a sudden he after he leaves, they get the car fixed, he follows them to see where they're going and sees them at their house, and he's and next thing you know, he comes up to his friends later, and he has this guy in the back of his car, and he's going around basically grabbing his old associates who have all maybe have gone through this torture from this person. and they're like, is this, I'm not sure, is this the guy? Like, I can't 100% remember. I was always like, I always had a bag over my head. I always was like, I could never see really, but I know this is him. He was squeaking and like, yeah, this is the guy. And it's like 5 or 6 of them. They basically like, one of them is getting married, so it's like her and her husband are kind of get brought onto this. They get some other people, some people like obviously are not doing well after like going through this horrible experience. And you could tell that they have all this trauma and like, they're trying to get revenge on this person. And so it's like, some of them are trying to be like more like, wait, are we sure? Like, yeah. Some of them are really just hell-bent on the revenge. And so there's all these things going on, basically. And the film, so you get to a point where the people kind of break up a little bit. And like the 2 like main people who are there basically are with this guy, and they have this whole thing back and forth, they're yelling at him, whatever. But then they basically decide to extend grace, even if they're still not 100% sure if he is or not. But they decide to I think they kind of like leave it with maybe thinking that he's not, because the guy was hell-bent, like, I'm not this person, like, what do you, like, I'm not this person, you guys are ridiculous, please, like, I have a family, all these kind of things. So they decide to be like, okay, like, to believe him and to like let him go and like say like, okay, like, you know, we're gonna get you if anything happens, whatever. And the ending of this film is one of the best endings of a film I've seen in a very long time. And Nora, I think, was a really great ending as well, but I wasn't like frightened there. This one was one that was like for real, because basically, you know, it's like a little bit later, like I forget, some weeks or months, I forget what it fully is. And this guy, the main guy we're following, the main guy who like took him first and was going to grab people, he's at his mother's home, he's helping her like move some stuff out, do some stuff, whatever. And then all of a sudden, it's a back shot. So he's turned the other way. He's like about to go up the steps or whatever like that. And then we hear a car pull up in the driveway. Like he's inside, like whatever. And we hear a car pull up. And again, he's moving these boxes, whatever. And then we literally start hearing the, like the squeaks. And the guy is just still now. The guy who like kidnapped the other guy is just still. We can't see him. And we're just hearing clearly that, like they're getting louder. Like he got out the car and he's starting to come towards. I'm not even doing the squeak very well. And basically it ends like him like basically like he's basically right up on the guy seemingly. We can't see. We can only see the guy's back, but because of the sound, great sound design by the way. Because of the sound, we could just hear that he's obviously approaching, and we basically get to the moment where he stops, and then it ends. And it's like. And it's like, oh no. Like, so then it's like, so what happened? Like, that's where it ends. And it just has you on because it's like, he's coming, he's going away. Like, where is, let me tell you. I've only seen the film once, and I want to see it again. I just want to see it again. I need to see it again, even though I know where it ends now. But that ending was so chilling and so just like, what does this mean? Like, oh my Lord, that movie was incredible. The whole lead up, but really that ending was just like, I still am thinking about it, just like, oh my God, that was incredible. Incredible. It was just an accident, an Iranian film. Go see that if it's in cinemas. I don't even think it's in cinemas anymore, because I've been trying to see it again and it's not anywhere. It will eventually be, it's a neon release. Neon 6 times in a row, Palme d'Or winner is crazy. So it will eventually be on Hulu, we know. Maybe HBO Max is how they're like sign a partnership. In the US I'm talking about, but I just want to watch it again. Oh my gosh, that movie was incredible. Okay, next film here is The Knife. This is a film directed by Nnamdi Asomugha. I know Nnamdi because he's married to the great actress Kerry Washington. He also was a co-writer of this film with Mark Duplass. This film is like a psychological drama. Essentially, this family is living, I don't know if they gave a specific area they're living, but they're living kind of like in a not great neighborhood. They're a young family. Agent Naomi King is in this as his spouse, and she's great. How to Get Murder, things like that. She's great in that. Manny Jacinto is a police officer, I think. I'm jumping ahead a little bit too much. Basically, Nnamdi and Asia's characters, they have just moved somewhat recently to this kind of fixer-upper house. They have 2 young children. They're living in the house, and all of a sudden, they hear a ruffle in the night. Nnamdi goes to get up and sees that there's a woman in the kitchen who has a knife. Do they have to share that? Yeah, there's a woman in the kitchen, basically, and with the knife, and they all of a sudden, like, the lights kind of flicker on and off, and then next she ends up on the floor, maybe with like a wound, and he's like, oh, what's going on, yada yada. The family comes out. It's like, I think it's 2 daughters, 2 daughters, and then the wife comes out, and they're like, oh my gosh, and they have to call the police to be like, okay, like, the police like need to get here to get this person. But being black in America, you're already thinking about what does this look like? What are the cops going to see? They're going to see a black man, an elderly white woman who's clearly like not really well, but they're going to see this, and what are they going to think? Are they going to believe us, or are they going to believe this person on the floor and say like they didn't break in, whatever? So what they kind of do is like the moment, just a second before the cops come in, the spouse, Asian Naomi King, she like grabs the knife and like hides it or something like that, and basically they're like right away they're like, just tell the truth, everyone, don't worry about it. But then the mom grabs the knife right away, and then the family's like what are we gonna do now? Like they have 2 young daughters, whatever like that, and now they're basically like stuck like, oh okay, like what are we gonna do now? Melissa Leo is like the main detective person who's like talking to all these 4, and like talking to the adults separately, and then talking to the kids separately. And again, they're trying to, now the kids are kind of confused as well, like, okay, what do we do? Mom's just done this, like we can't fully say the truth now, because now like something has obviously been like, you know, what's it called? So the detectives are coming from a stage of trying to figure out what's going on, but also really looking into them as well. It's like, oh, like asking these questions, and again, it's like all these kind of things going on, and then we get to a point as well where I forget exactly how it happens, but I think like somehow the knife is figured out, like there's like prints on the knife or something like that. Is something happens where they're like, well, one of you guys clearly did this, and I think Namdi steps up and says like, hey, it was me, whatever like that. So they arrest him, and the film ends with him in the back of the cop car, and we start hearing like the news or something like that, and it's like them talking about like black people and like some black crimes or something like that, whatever. Like basically these things of like how it's basically it's like it makes you think again about the way we can be perceived, and how we oftentimes are like, you know, like injustices that are against us and things like that, especially in these crimes. And again, thinking about that whole thing they're leading up to, worried about how are we going to be perceived when they're coming in and we've been attacked, we're the ones who are the victims, but they're probably going to see us first as the like assailant. Like they're not going to put us right away as the victim or the people who are in need of help, which I think is why instinctively Asian Naomi King's character grabs the knife and is like worried about it. And like that ends up screwing them, but still it's like that whole kind of training of like, are they going to actually believe believe us, basically? And it's like they're like in our house, like looking through our bathrooms, like, oh, what is this medication you're on? Oh, you're working these jobs. Like, well, I didn't take this medication to help me like get through the day. I work these like construction jobs, whatever like that. Like it's an incredible film. It's quite a small film, so it had a pretty limited release in cinemas, but I'm so glad I went to see it. And I think it's just really, really impactful, especially for African Americans, but really anybody. I think it's a really great film, and really great discussions that they have in this, and I highly recommend you seeing it if you can. All right, next up here is Marty Supreme, directed by Josh Shafty and also co-written by him. One of the last ones of this list, or I think the last one of this whole list that I saw like last, basically. It came out like Christmas Day, and I saw it I think on the, I might see it Christmas Eve. Yeah, I saw it Christmas Eve. Starring Timothée Chalamet. He has a very good chance of winning the Oscar this year. Yeah, basically this is about this young guy set in the 1950s New York who has this dream of being on a Wheaties box by playing table tennis. And he's like so pursuing of this dream, and Timothée Chalamet's character is an ass. He's really such an ass in this film, but you can't help but root for the guy. Like he's funny, he's like insulting, he's like he's so focused on this dream that he really just doesn't give a heck about anyone else, and he will just do whatever he can do to get where he wants to go. And yeah, that is really what that film is kind of about, and it's like dreaming big and like putting everything you can into like this dream. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it lived up, as I said in my movie review, it lived up to the hype quite a lot. And I do think it was quite, the pacing is really, really, it's like you're on your toes the whole time, as Marty kind of is. It's like, it's very, very in there. We have a great cast. We have Gwyneth Paltrow, Odessa Zion, Kevin O'Leary, Tyler the Creator, Tyler Okama, Fran Dresser. Really great film. Really, really great. Next up here, I have No Other Choice by Park Chan-wook. This is a South Korean film. Excellent South Korean film. Another dark comedy. Well, we have a couple of dark comedies in here. I just saw this again this week. I saw it at like an early release thing they did in IMAX, like beginning of December. So happy to see it then. It was packed. Of course it was. I've been hearing people dying to see this, so I was happy I was able to see it then, and then I saw it again this week. And this film, I feel like this is a film that's so hard to maintain the tone it does throughout. But essentially, our main character here has lost his job at this paper company because he basically refuses to like sell out his workers because they're basically trying to do some more automation and like get rid of actual human jobs. And he doesn't want to sell. He's a manager. He just wants to sell out his workers, so he ends up getting fired. And he says like, I'm gonna get a new job in 3 months. It's like a bunch of these people who have been fired, maybe like from all over different sectors. They all are at this basically like help center potentially, and they're like hearing these mantras like, and they're doing this thing like, I'm gonna get a new job in 3 months. I'm the leader of the family, yada yada, and like telling them, hyping themselves up. And basically 13 months later, he doesn't have a new job. He's working in like just like a random odd job, and we get to a point where his wife is like, who's his wife's character. His wife in this film is what's her name? Sung Yi Jin. She's excellent in this film, and the main character in this film is Lee Byung Hun. But her character, she's great. Basically, like they've been living this good life, and they're like, well, your dad didn't get a new job, and now we have to start sacrificing. So we're gonna get rid of Netflix. We're gonna have to sell the house. I can't do tennis anymore. Yada yada, whatever. The only thing we'll keep is like our young daughter's cello lessons. We're gonna have to like really cut back. We gotta get rid of the dogs. The dogs are gonna go live with your grandparents, whatever, like that. And basically he's like, I have no other he basically decides I have no other choice but to like, I have to put my family first. I gotta protect my family. I'm gonna just have to basically take out my competition. So he starts with trying to take out the person who took his job originally, and then he's like, well, no, if I take him, if I kill him, there's still people out there who are gonna take my job. So he says, okay, I gotta do what I can to like take out the competition. So he like makes this fake paper company, Red Pepper Paper Company. He has all these people submit him these applications, and he decides there's these 2 people who are like better qualified than him that he should take out. So the film starts but like that's kind of journey starts with like the one person he's trying to take out, and it kind of takes a while. We kind of follow them for a little bit. He ends up being this really sad man, this alcoholic who finds out his wife is cheating on him. He's quite empathetic. Lee Hun's character, he sees that his wife is cheating on him, and he's like, oh, I don't want him to find out. So let me try to call him and tell him like, oh, yada yada, whatever. Come to this meeting with me. And he doesn't give him the address, and he ends up going to drink again. And then he eventually he gets there, and there's all these kind of crazy things, and it's basically like him taking these turns to do obviously this very dark turn to like get his family secured, but it's like, you're sacrificing your morality, you're sacrificing so many things. It's like it's a horrible thing to do. Obviously, it's like it's horrible. Yeah, you put your like self-preservation and things like that, but it's bad. And even all of that too is like he was ready to start a union, all these kind of things at the beginning of the film. We meet him like giving this union speech to his like colleagues, and like trying to go talk to like the American company that's come in and bought this company, which apparently paper is like a huge thing in like Korea and like Japan, I think, as well, which I didn't know. It was interesting to learn about through this film. So he does all this, he like yada yada. Then in his last interview, like at the very end of the film, he's in an interview, and they're like, yeah, so we're gonna be, we're trying to get it fully autonomous. So like we just need someone really to make sure the machines are working. And he's like, oh yeah, you got to just like, it's go with the times, how. So he's basically completely sold everything he ever stood for. One, like the whole thing of like not wanting to, people who have worked so hard in these jobs, getting rid of them. But then also now again, of course, his morality in terms of like being okay killing people. And like just to like secure his spot and like keep his house and things like that, and all those kind of things. And even the wife, who at some point kind of figures out, because the son sees him at some point with a body in his greenhouse, and he kind of has it covered, but he kind of sees like an arm, and the wife kind of like she like realizes that that's what's happening basically, but she's like on his side and is trying to like, she's basically sold her soul up as well, but like obviously in different ways. Some of them, because she's not 100% sure, but she basically is. So it's like this guy goes to do this complete transformation of like, just to kind of secure his future, he just completely betrays like so many things he stood for. And it's just like, yeah. So it's hard to keep that tone in the film the whole time, I feel like, in terms of like, because it's quite funny as well, the film, but it's also these very heavy and like very obviously important topics. Even the film ends like, as the names are coming up, we're seeing like, and it made me think about Train Dreams a little bit too. We're seeing that was set like, years and years ago. We're seeing like these robots basically grab these trees and like shave them down and get what they need. Whereas before, people used to be out there like knocking the trees down and doing the whole kind of work. But now that job is gone too. Now it's like just these robots, one person in the robot thing, and like this big old machine type of thing, like being able to do all this. So it's just quite interesting. I've seen that Park Chan-wook and the Choice team has been wanting to like invite a bunch of like CEOs to these things to watch the screening. I saw they did that like a couple months ago, and maybe like no, I don't think anyone showed up. But obviously it's a very, very important film, and it's excellent. Next up here is On Becoming a Guinea Fowl. This is a brilliant, this is a Zambian film, I believe. Let me double check. Yeah, Zambian film. This, of all the films, this was the first film that made it on my list of like favorites of 2025. It was my very first entry, this film, and then like Companion, which I saw first of all of them, came in later. Another dark comedy. This film is around this woman who's going back home to Zambia. She's like, her uncle has passed, and she goes to his funeral, and basically his funeral and his funeral proceedings, things like that, basically her and her cousins basically start to bring to light like some of the buried secrets that they've had. Basically, this uncle has sexually assaulted multiple people in the family and also out of it as well. But it's like the family is like so focused on keeping things quiet and just keeping things like, you know, as they are, like, you know, like let's not bring these things up, and let's just honor this man who's died, who's actually this horrible person. But it's like we don't talk about what he did, what he did. We don't do it. So it's like basically like it's even though that's quite heavy, it is quite comedic as well. And again, it's a dark comedy film, and so it's basically her navigating this film. Her navigating this experience and trying to basically be like, what are we doing here? The actor in here is Susan Chaudhry, and this film is directed and written by Rugenawa Noyani. And so it's kind of like that. So it's like this uncle is like this horrible person. My family does, like the elders of my family, really, they don't want to say anything about this. They want to just be hush hush about this, but this is a horrible person. And he did a lot of horrible things to me, to others in my family. Like she's finding out like, oh, what happened to you too, and yada yada, and like, why did no one do anything? And I began just trying to like, you know, be silent about this. And its film is a kind of makes you think a lot about how this happens in families so much when they want to protect their own, things like that. But obviously, like, what does that mean in terms of like those of the people who have been affected by this? Like, what does that mean for us? And it's just like a brilliant film. It's excellent. It's like, it's so stunning. And I highly, highly recommend it. It's on HBO Max now in the US. If you have HBO Max, watch it. It's brilliant. Next up here is One Battle After Another. Wow, another dark comedy action as well. This is PTA written and directed, and it's incredible. Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, 3 Oscar winners right there. Regina Hall, Tiana Taylor, Chase Infinity in her first picture. This is an awesome film. We're following these revolutionaries. The film opens up with Tiana Taylor really as like our main character. She has like just under 30 minutes in this film, and she's like basically this like badass revolutionary figure who's like one of the leaders of the French 75 resistance group. They're like, we start in Otay Mesa, and they break out some people who at a ICE detention center. They break out some people there and get them to safety. And she meets Sean Penn, who's this Colonel Lockjaw, and they right away have like some kind of weird thing going on, basically, which if you see the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And Leonardo DiCaprio is like her boyfriend, who's kind of like a side character in a way. Like he like can do explosive and things like that. And he's like, he like clearly likes her, and I think that might initially have been his end. Like he likes Tiana and he wants to be with her, and her name is Perfidia Beverly Hills. Which what a kick-ass name that is. And he's like with her and like trying to, you know, like set her up, whatever like that. She ends up being pregnant. We see her be pregnant, have a baby who ends up being Chase Infinity. In this stage though as well, she's with Leonardo DiCaprio, but she also had a night with Sean Penn in a weird kind of way. He's supposed to be like trying to get her, but he's so attracted to her. He's focused on like something. He's not focused on like really getting her. He's trying to just like get with her. So they have a night, whatever. She's pregnant, and it's like it could be either, but like you're not really thinking about that really. She has the baby. Her and Leo kind of, you know, like she's still trying to be a revolutionary. She's still out there doing these things. She's like robbing a bank, basically, her and some of the group, and they get captured. And she basically turns on her fellow French 75ers. She gets like put in protective custody. some people get taken out. Like Colonel Lockjaw starts to like go hunt down these people, and then she runs away off to Mexico basically. And the film basically starts with, after she's taken, Leonardo DiCaprio takes the baby, who will eventually be Chase Infinity. She's a baby at this point. Takes her away, and they move away to like Arizona, Nevada, or something like that. Like they move away to basically to be a safety. Take different names, like aliases, things like that. And the film basically picks up another, 15 years later, whatever it happens to be. And this girl now is like a teenager. And Leonardo DiCaprio's character is this guy who used to be like a resistance guy, but now he's just like in the corner, kind of just like around. And he's like, obviously he just like does drugs, he drinks, he doesn't like, he's like hiding out. And essentially, Colonel Lockjaw, who Sean Penn plays, needs to find Chase Infinity because he's like, this could be my daughter. And he's trying to basically get into this very racist organization that Tony Goldwyn runs, actually. Tony Goldwyn just be hopping into these movies randomly. Like, I think about him and Oppenheimer just like in there and like having such impact. Him and his group basically, he needs to basically like wipe out all instances that like, I can't have had a previous history of being with someone who's not white or something like that. And obviously this is like a physical manifestation of that happening, so I have to get rid of her. So he chases them down, and basically Leonardo DiCaprio's character is basically like, trying to figure out like, what's the freaking password for like the hideout? I don't know the rendezvous point. I forgot all that stuff you guys taught me in that book. I don't remember any of it, like yada yada. Chase Infinity is like trying to like, her she knows of her mother, but like, she never really met her. Really, she met her, but like she was too young. And her father is telling her all these, he's like really worried about her, like want her to let her have a phone, things like that. She doesn't have a phone though. And it's basically like this whole thing back and forth of like, I don't know these people, I don't know the situation. Like Regina Hall comes to save me. She's like, oh, this is like a real thing, yeah, whatever. And it's basically all that going on. It's like this family story kind of. Leo trying to make sure she's safe, trying to get her, and like, yet all these kind of things, whatever. Sean Penn, who's incredible in this film, as like the villain in this, and trying to do what he's doing. Benicio del Toro is the sensei who like teaches Chase Infinity. He ends up being like a hero in little pockets of the film in terms of helping Leonardo like get out and like go continue on his quest. And obviously Tiana Taylor, she was really in the beginning of the film, and that's really all. And then Regina Hall sprinkled in there a little bit as well. And she's great in this as well. And it's just a really, really great film. This film is, as well, it's, a lot of people have been talking about the driving scene, like where they're going up and down these hills. And it's like the way the camera was going on that, it was like, so like, because it was like, you felt like you were in the car. At least I felt like that in a way. It was like, I felt like I was like I can't see. I can only see like what, I can't see. Like you can't see. You're going down this hill. You're just like seeing what you can see. And like there's a whole chase scene happening. And it's just like, it's just incredible. And yeah, it's likely going to win Best Picture. I'd be very surprised if it did not. But yeah, that's one bad after another. It's another dark comedy. Wow, I really am liking the dark comedies here. I'm laughing through the pain. The Roses, this film, I really enjoyed it, but part of the reason why this was in this film is because it was one of my favorite movie-going experiences that I had of 2025. We had Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman. This film directed by Jay Roach and written by Tony McNamara, which I didn't even realize until just now. And Tony McNamara like wrote like The Favorite, Poor Things, things like that. This film was so funny. It's this couple who've like basically been together for years and years, but now they like basically have come to hate each other almost in a way. And Benedict and Olivia are so funny in this film. And like in this film, it was literally like the whole theater was cracking up from like beginning to end, and like it was just hilarious from beginning to end. And it's like them basically like, they're going through a marriage and they're struggling, but they're trying to still hold it together. And they're just like, they're so cutthroat and mean to each other, but quite British as well in ways. And they're like in therapy, and the therapist is like, maybe you should divorce. And like, how dare you say that? We're gonna like get our money back. Like, it's just so ridiculous. And like the movie experience though was just so funny, and it's one I really, really recommend everyone watch, because if you really just want like a good hearty laugh, go watch this film. Go do it. All right, our final four here. We're getting towards the end. We're getting towards our final five here. Goodness. Sentimental Value. Let me just cut all that stuff up, basically. Co-written and directed by Joachim Trier and Esco Volt, who they always write their films together. And Joachim Trier is a director. Obviously, he did Worst Person in the World, which is like one of the best movies that's come out in the past several years. It's so excellent with Renata Reinsva, Stellan Skarsgård's in this, Inga Ilias and Elle Fanning. This is like a family drama. Renate Reinsve and Inga are sisters, and their mother has passed. Their father's kind of this aloof filmmaker who they don't see enough of, and he's like, kind of like, you know, their parents got divorced when they were young, whatever. He's like very focused on his own career. He like comes in basically and like comes to be like at the funeral kind of, but like it's still his house, whatever like that. I don't even know. And he basically says to Reinsve, who is an actor, I have the screenplay for you. Like, I want to do this film with you. And she's like, no, I'm not going to work with you. I don't want to work with you. Like, no thanks. And he's like, he's trying to figure out like why. She really won't do it. So he ends up hiring this American actress, Elle Fanning, who's like this big star, but she hasn't really maybe had like a great project where it's like really like sincere and things like that yet. And he hires her basically to be the actor in this film that's clearly written for his daughter. And she realizes that I'm not the right character for this film. They were already like into rehearsals. They were filming in their house, and things like that. Or they hadn't filmed yet, but like they were like, you know, gonna be doing it in their house. She gets to the point where she realizes that like, oh, this character's not for me. This isn't a good, like, I can't do this. Fanning is great in this. Really great character, and like an interesting character because it's like they have a moment where she's reading this scene that ends up coming up in the end. She's doing it great, but like you can tell it's not fully connected to it. Like, it's supposed to be a Norwegian film. This is a Norwegian film. This film is, but also the film was supposed to be in Norwegian, things like that. Which also Stellan Skarsgård, who's Swedish, is speaking Swedish quite a lot in this film, is what I found out after. Anyway, but then she's kind of this person who's like speaking in English, and it's like kind of weird, and it's like trying to put an accent on, and shit, like yada yada. She does this scene, and it's like it's good, but it's like you can tell like this doesn't feel right coming out of her. Rachel Kemp is her name. It doesn't feel right coming out of her, and she realizes, like, she meets with Renate Reinsve's character Nora, and is like, you know, is seeing her and meeting her, and like Stellan had her dye her hair like her same color, things like that. And she gets to this point of realizing that this film is really not for me. And Renate Reinsve is basically, actually, let me back up. Inga Ilias' character, she's the younger sister, and she has previously worked with her father. She has a complicated relationship with her father as well. Like, she worked with him when she was really young, and you know, one of his films that we saw at the very end of it, like a screening. Renate Reinsve obviously is like, she's gone through depression, and she's is going through depression, like currently, things like that, and it has all these problems up and down in terms of like her, you know, her kind of path forward. We see her basically at the beginning of one of her plays that she does, and she's really struggling to get out there and whatnot. This film was really just beautiful, and I feel like I'm like stumbling over the words now and about it, but it's really about this family. We get to this point towards the end of the film where the younger sister comes to the older sister's house, checks on her, and it's like, I want you to read this screenplay. My dad wanted to get my son in this film, and I want you to read the screenplay. It's brilliant. I think it's about you. It's this really beautiful scene, and she reads it, and it's that same scene that Elle Fanning read earlier in the film. She reads it. She starts, you know, tearing up, you know, whatever, and she clearly has been in this house. She's been locked in this house for days, kind of like going through a depression. And she previously had a suicide attempt, all these kind of things. Later we see, like sometime later after her sister helps her cleans up for her, whatever like that, whatever, in the house, and they're having this like kind of intimate scene, and the Renate Reinsve's character's like, why didn't our childhood mess you up? And she's like, I mean, I have my own problems, but like, you know, one difference between how we grew up is that I had you. And it's like this beautiful moment where she's like, you know, you combed my hair, you made sure I got to school, you did all these things for me when maybe mom was a little bit shaky. You were there, you were really there for me, and you know, you were just. And remember that moment in the film, in the moment I didn't like cry watching it, but I was driving home, and then like when I was coming to do my 1 minute movie review, and if you've seen it, or my little after one, I cried in my after one, because I was thinking about it again. It was just so beautiful the way the sisters here were depicted in terms of supporting each other and being with each other, and really kind of having that thing of like the younger sister, older sister dynamic. I am the baby sister, and I have my older sister, and I think anyone who has a sister, you really can connect to that in terms of like your older sister being, you know, being your older sister, being there for you in so many different ways, and whatnot. Even in just that, or even so many different deeper things you can go into that as well, which I won't have to go into all the way here, but it's just a beautiful film, and right away I really, really enjoyed it. And I think of all the films, I'm not really ranking, but I think this is probably my second favorite film of the year, and actually the one I'm going to be talking about shortly. And it's just brilliant, excellent. I'm going on a flight today. It's playing on Delta, which who wants to watch a movie like that's not really the way you want to watch a movie like on Delta, but I might have to watch that again if I get a chance because I like to see it. I've seen it twice because I saw it and I took my sister the second time. I said I want to take my sister to see this film because obviously she saw me crying about that moment. And she was like, "Oh, like, are you alright?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was like, I want you to see this, yada yada." I remember I came home as well, and I hugged her so tight. And yeah, excellent film. All right, we're getting towards the end. Next one here is Sinners. This is a horror film, but it's not really a horror. Like I feel like there's so many different genres in this film. It's like genre bending. Written and directed by the great Ryan Coogler. Like his first really like original kind of like no previous IP type thing work, and it's so excellent. Michael B. Jordan is playing twin brothers in this film. We have Haley Steinfeld. We have Miles Caton. His first film. I think his first anything. Excuse me. Ooh. We have Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, Miles Caton, Jack O'Connell, Wunmi Mosaku, Jamie Lawson, Omar Miller, and Delroy Lindo. This is a great film about so much. Ryan Coogler is playing twin brothers in this film, Smoke and Stack. They've moved back down to Mississippi to basically like open up a juke joint. They're getting ready to basically open up this night. It's set in like it's year like sharecropping days. It's set in the 1930s. They're getting ready to open up this juke joint, and everyone's kind of like getting ready to come in, all these kind of things. But then there happens to be vampires who just happen to be in the area essentially, and Jack O'Connell's like the leader of these vampires, and basically they come to this juke joint. And I haven't really seen many vampire movies, so like I didn't really know in terms of like they can't come inside unless they're invited. Basically they work their way around to get someone in to the party, and then everything kind of breaks out from there, and they basically have to fight to try to survive, fight to get out, whatever like that. And music is all intertwined in this film. It's very like blues heavy, like obviously like Mississippi Delta kind of like that's where it's set and all that kind of thing going on. There's this beautiful, excellent like I forgot what Ryan Coogler says they call, but it's kind of like this like music scene, which everyone would know what I'm talking about if you've seen the film, where Miles Caton is singing this brilliant, beautiful song, written by Raphael Sadiq and Ludwig Göransson called "I Lied to You." He's singing it in the club. He's a preacher boy, is what they call him, because his father's a pastor. He's singing this song in the juke joint. Everyone's kind of going around it. He starts singing it normally, whatever, and then all of a sudden we start seeing like we basically go through all these different like influences of music from all these years. Like we see like someone from Africa and like in African dress, and then we see like someone like beatboxing, someone rapping. We're moving around. We're seeing like some Chinese dance, some Chinese music, things like that. We're kind of like going completely through like this music and like seeing how they all are connected, and it's just like this really beautiful piece that everyone's been talking about for a long, long time. And it's an excellent film, and I really just think it's quite brilliant. It came out quite early in the season, like comparatively. I think some people was surprised about how well it did. It was kind of like maybe I don't know. It came out. I think it came out maybe March, something like that, or April. Yeah, it came out April. So it came out a while ago in terms of like the relativity of like award seasons. It's gonna be re-releasing in cinemas. I heard on like the 23rd of January, so you can get a chance to see it again in cinemas if you haven't. And it's just a really great, excellent film. And I think everyone's up in here is so great. I think Ryan Coogler will be winning Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars this year, which would be awesome. He's never been nominated for an Oscar. I remember people were really upset when he didn't get a Black Panther nomination for director. And things like that. So he's finally going to be getting a nomination, I know for sure. He'll be getting at least the original screenplay and likely also Best Director Oscar nomination. I hope Best Director he will get. Cinematography in this is great. Autumn Durald Arcapa is excellent. She's great cinematography in this. So many great things up and down. Ludwig Göransson is going to be winning his third Oscar for the score for this. He's incredible. All right, let me keep moving. Now to my favorite movie of the year, hands down, period. Not a dark comedy drama though. Sorry Baby by Ava Victor. Ooh, this film was one of those ones I saw in like July, I think. Came into it and I hadn't heard that much, but A24 film, and I heard enough about it, and then I read something about it quickly, and I said, oh, I want to go see this. Also stars Naomi Ackie and Lucas Hedges. John Carroll Lynch is in this for a little bit as well. Kelly McCormick. So many great things. Essentially, this film is Ava Victor is this. We're following her in these different stages of life. It's basically kind of like she has gone through a bad thing. It's kind of what they call it. They kind of is what they say. We're following her in the stage where she was in a PhD program, and then also following her after. And essentially, she's her professor, her college literature professor, is like she's a reclusive professor. She teaches literature, and she's struggling with depression, and after being sexually assaulted by her professor in her PhD program in this area she's living in. Naomi Ackie's her best friend. They were living together and are still best friends. They were living together while they were in this PhD program together. The thing about this film that's so excellent and beautiful, so much of this film is excellent and beautiful, but like obviously it's a very heavy subject matter, but they have these such moments of levity and lightness and beautifulness and things you can laugh with. But the thing I really liked, and what I've seen Ava Victor talk about since, is that she was very intentional about like not showing the bad thing. They didn't even say the word like the word rape until like the exam at the doctor's. I think that was even only said once. Even it was like, how can we form a language to like be soft with ourselves and be gentle with ourselves? And they decide basically the bad thing is how they're going to be describing it. But what I really thought was excellent about this and choices of this film is like basically she goes to get her thesis reviewed. Her teacher's like, oh sorry, like yada yada, can you come to my house instead? We see her park at like her school. Clearly it's like a smallish town. She walks to her professor's house. We see her walk in the house, and the camera's just across the street. So then we see it's like daytime. The next you know it's like midday. And next you know it's dark. And then she's coming out. She puts her shoes on outside, and then we see him like in the doorway, and then she just like walks back, and we're kind of like following her from her back, and we're just seeing her walk back to her car, and she's kind of clearly in this daze, and she comes right inside the house with Naomi Ackie's character is there, and then she's like basically like she gets in the tub, and she basically tells her like what happened, and she basically recounts what happened in the talking to her friend. And it goes from there. We kind of go back and forth with these different moments in her life. She's trying to like continue to make it through this obviously difficult thing, and trying to just make it through. She's trying to make it through. And this film is excellent. It's her directorial debut, and it's just stunning. It's a stunning film, and I recommend it to everybody I know. And if you have not seen it, you need to see it ASAP. All right, favorite of the year. By far, and never went away, never wavered for me. Next up here is Together. This is written and directed by Michael Shanks, Dave Franco, and Alison Brie, who are a married couple. They're playing a married couple in this film. It's a body horror, supernatural kind of film. Basically, they moved to this new area. They were living in the city, New York City, and then they move away to like be a little bit farther away. Like she's like working, and he's like kind of like he does music, things like that. They end up like randomly they fall into this pit basically, and some substance basically gets them basically to be at a stage where they really want to be together. They want to be like combined, and they like have this crazy attraction in terms of like being connected to each other, and like really supernatural stuff. And you see from the poster kind of like their lips are connecting. Like eventually their bodies begin to morph together, and we find out that it's basically like years ago this like weird church cult type thing had this thing where they were basically like infusing people together and really like messing them up where they can be like one being. It's really like messed up, and it's basically them like not understanding. They're trying to do everything they can to basically be like no, like to like fight it, but like they can't really fight this mysterious force, whatever they've encountered in the woods. And it's quite nuts, but it was really quite good. Like it was one of the best kind of like body horror films I've seen in a bit. The substance was also really great too, but I'm not a huge horror person, even though I have a couple like horror type films on this list. I'm not a huge horror girl, but they had a lot of great things, and I think that the performances were great. Like the whole plot was like really interesting and like out of this world, and that was just really really enjoyable, and some funny moments in there as well. And I think just a really great film. Like so, give it a watch. Final one is Train Dreams. It's a period drama directed and co-written by Clint Bentley. Clint Bentley also was someone who like worked. I think he was one of the screenplay writers for Sing Sing, so that's great. Sing Sing was excellent, obviously, from last year. This film is beautiful, like one of the most beautiful films I've seen in terms of how it's shot. Adolfo Veloso will be winning Best Cinematography at the Oscars. I can, hang my hat on it, or whatever the phrase is. Has Joel Edgerton in this film, Dave Felicity Jones, William H. Macy, Carrie Condon, lots of great people in this film. And essentially we're following this man at the turn of the 21st century, living in the Pacific Northwest, or the 20th century, because we're in the early 1900s. Living in the Pacific Northwest. He's basically a day laborer, and he's he primarily is cutting down trees, and that's what he's doing, which made me again think about No Other Choice and the kind of the ending of the film there. And he's living in this time trying to provide for his family. Like, he meets Felicity Jones, and they fall in love, they get married, they have a child. He has to in this time, it's not it's easily to go back and forth, so he has to completely pick up and move away for months at a time to go to the forest to go cut these trees down, whatever. Essentially, he comes back one day. There's been a massive wildfire. He can't find his family. His house has been burned down. He can't find his family. He doesn't know where they are, and obviously seemingly they have died. And he goes around looking for them for years and years. And he's always struggling, kind of figure what's the point of it all, that kind of thing, and trying to hang on, not taking care of himself. Some people in the area end up supporting him and helping him through. One man in particular who's owns a shop in town. He picks himself back up. He eventually goes back out there to start doing some more of this work, even though he didn't really want to. And he sees things have changed. He's gotten older, and he basically is going through life basically with this very massive wound. And we see him as very quiet life, quiet man. Doesn't really say much, kind of just going through what he needs to do. And the world, he gets connected to the world as he continues to live through it. And he's 80 something years old. He doesn't really know when his birthday is. He doesn't really know where he's come from. He kind of just got sent around. He's kind of just living. It's kind of just a film about this man just living through this very hard time, and living through what he did, and being able to persevere, and connecting to the world in a different way than he maybe thought he ever could. And it's just a beautiful film. And I remember I watched it here at home. It's on Netflix. I watched it, and right after I watched it, right away I was like, oh, maybe I want to see this again, maybe, because it was it was so beautiful. It was, of course, the film and the story of it, but truly the way that this film came up, and I really was I wish I could see this on the big screen. It was just stunning and beautiful, and I just really, really enjoyed it. And I think it was just one of the most beautiful films I've seen this year, in terms of the way it was the way it looked, but even the storyline, things like that. It was also adapted off a little novella, which I read after seeing the film. Joel Edgerton is great in this, and it's just a really, really great piece of work. And I recommend you watching it. It's on Netflix now, so you have no excuse. Netflix is everywhere, so you could definitely see it some way, somehow. Alright, I think I've talked enough. I was hoping that this would have been shorter than it was, but I still didn't even go into some of these films as in depth as I could have. I know that, but I did want to kind of come on here and note the films that are my favorite of 2025. 20 great works. I love movies, and this is 20 movies that I picked out of I watched over 110 new watches in 2025. So I narrowed it down as much as I could, and this is what we have. But I've talked enough. I need to get going with some other things in my life now. So thanks so much for watching. Feel free to comment below if you've seen any of these films. Do you tell me what you thought about some of them? Any of these ones that you haven't seen that maybe you're going to watch now that you've heard about them from me, and obviously you might have heard about some of these already. These are, anyways. Comment below. What do you think about these films? Tell me some of your favorites of the year. I would love to pull up some if I haven't seen them already. Again, as I kind of mentioned throughout this video, I have 1-minute movie reviews for every one of these films. So I talk about every one of these films at least 4 minutes. A lot of them for more than a minute. On my socials, so I'll probably will tag them below, so you should be able to find them there. But yeah, we love movies. I always say this I'm from Newcastle. I love movies, and these 20 from 2025 were really were really just excellent, and I really recommend every single one of these films on this list to you all. And yeah, that's all for me. I'll see you around.